After years of international negotiations with delegates from 24 countries and the European Union, the Ross Sea in Antarctica has been declared the world's largest marine protected area, which is the largest in history. At a meeting in Hobart, Australia, the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources agreed unanimously to designate the Ross Sea as an MPA after years of protracted negotiations. South Africa's endurance swimmer Lewis Pugh has been advocating for this for years. He joins us on the line now from London. Lewis, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we understand that you're on the move, which is why we needed to cut to this interview as soon as possible. Can I suggest to you that this is a coup for speedo diplomacy? Would you agree?
Well, I'm so delighted. 2 years ago, I looked at the way the negotiations were going, and year after year after year, they just didn't seem to be going anywhere. And the real problem was that nobody even knew where the Ross Sea was. And then two countries were blocking this marine protected area. The one was Russia, the other one was China. And so I decided to go down to the Ross Sea, do a series of swims there, and then go and meet the leadership in Russia and try and persuade them about the importance of protecting this place. And so some of the media have been talking about this being speedo diplomacy. Well, it's really amazing. I couldn't believe my ears when yesterday these 24 countries in the European Union, when they agreed finally to set this area aside. This is a huge area of the ocean. Just to put it in perspective, this marine protected area, which is about 11 days sailing south of New Zealand, is about the same size as South Africa and Zimbabwe put together. That's how big it is. It's huge.
Yeah, but practically, what does the signing of this agreement mean? What are some of the activities that countries are committing to and committing to refrain from?
Good. So what's happened is, and if you look at all the world's oceans, they're being so very badly overfished. And so what the big industrial fishing fleets are doing now is they're going further south and further north into the polar regions to try and catch the last big fish in the world. About 90% of the world's big fish have now been taken out of the world's oceans. And so the United Nations and Camelot and other various organizations are doing what they can now to set up these marine protected areas. What this marine protected area prohibits or regulates is fishing down in the Ross Sea. So there are parts of the Ross Sea now which will be completely off limits to commercial fishing.
How hard was it to get parties to put pen to paper, Lewis? I mean, one of the arguments that I saw was there was sort of disagreement on the time frames. Some countries suggesting that it should be 20 years. Others, ultimately, agreement was that it should be 35 years, is it?
Yes, this was a very, very interesting argument. It's one of the first times this argument has ever been advanced, and that was that this marine protected area, which is like a national park in the oceans, would have what's called a sunset clause. And what that means is that after a certain period of time, then if the parties wanted it to carry on, they would have to renegotiate at that stage. Otherwise, the area would no longer be protected. I was concerned about this, and the reason is because, for example, the Kruger National Park or Shoshului, Umfolozi, these national parks, they're in for life, for perpetuity. You wouldn't say, the Kruger National Park has been there for over 100 years. There are now enough wildebeest and zebra and lions in there that we can start hunting. That's what's now being said to this marine protected area. There was very, very strong arguments advanced by two countries, Japan and China, that there should be a sunset clause. If the fish stock recovered after 35 years, then they should be allowed to fish there again. That argument won the day, but I'm hopeful that over the next couple of years, and when we see just how incredibly important and beneficial these marine protected areas are, when the delegates see the benefits of these marine protected areas, they'll say to the other countries, no, come on, we need to keep this going in perpetuity.
Naturally, Lewis, we then look at this agreement in the broader context where we're trying to minimize the impact of human development and human activity on our environment and our climate. Can this agreement, do you believe it is a model that could perhaps be, adopted and perhaps negotiated for the other, areas that are affected, especially marine regions such as the Arctic?
I very, very much hope so. So this is the first large-scale marine protected area in the high seas. Okay, it sets a very, very important precedent. I'm hoping that others are going to follow and follow in quick succession. But what this really does show us is that Antarctica can be a place for peace. Antarctica can be a place for bridge building. Antarctica can be a place where we can find common ground. And when you look around the world now and you see the conflict which is occurring in Syria, in Yemen, in the Ukraine, and various other parts of the world, and you see the way various countries are so divided about how to deal with these issues, it's a bright star in a grey sky. What this shows us is that we can find common ground if we really work together and we work with deep purpose. And I'm hoping that what has happened over the last year and a half in negotiations can literally ripple around the world and hopefully bring peace to many regions now which are experiencing so many difficulties.
Right, thank you so much. That is Lewis Pugh, the ocean advocate, swimmer and UN patron of the oceans. He was joining us from London. Newsnight will continue after the break with your top stories.